Berlin Pride 2026. Hundreds of thousands are celebrating the right to be themselves. Then, just before 10 p.m., a van drives into a crowd. One woman is killed, at least 30 others are injured.
Still makes me very emotional because this could be any one of us.
German authorities quickly identified a prime suspect, 21-year-old Abdul Ballout, who had multiple prior convictions and received a 22-month sentence for trying to join the so-called Islamic State group. Months before the Berlin Pride, he had been classified as a potential Islamist threat. Yet on July 25th, he was free. How did that happen?
The court decides to release him.
There is no law saying somebody can be sent to prison for being considered a security threat.
The attack triggered a familiar demand: more surveillance, more detention.
Then we will have more terrorism, not less. We will radicalize more people, not fewer.
Germany's youth justice system is built on second chances.
We as judges don't have a glass bowl. We cannot look into the future.
Do those second chances make society safer or leave it dangerously exposed? This is the story of what authorities knew, what they legally could do, and the decisions that came before the Berlin Pride attack. Tugay Sarraj was at Berlin Pride with his husband and sister.
We walked towards Charité and saw lots of ambulances and police cars and helicopters. And then we thought, this is really serious. It makes me angry, it makes me sad.
But Tugay is more than a witness. Years ago, he was part of Germany's Salafist scene himself. He knows firsthand how identity and the search for belonging can draw a teenager into the ideology.
When I grew up, my father always told me that homosexuality is something disgusting, something that you shouldn't live, and something that also deserves violence. And at some point I realized homosexuality obviously is something bad, something disgusting, something sick as well. And he passed away in 2011 when I was 13 years old, and I thought, well, I have to do something now, because that is also when I had already realized that I am gay myself. And that is when I started radicalizing myself. It started with me Googling Islam and homosexuality, and that was basically my first mistake. You mainly had Islamist forums that tell you that being gay is disgusting, it is a sin, and you have to get rid of that. And it didn't stop there. I started watching other content by Islamist YouTubers and influencers on Facebook back then. I've built a new friend group with Islamists all around me.
The ideology offered what Tugay felt he was missing.
It's also connected to an identity crisis, because I was never German. Like, I'm a German citizen, but I'm not German enough. And when you look for identity, Salafi communities will come to you and they will say, it doesn't matter if you are black, if you are white, if you are Turkish, Kurdish, German, Arab, whatever, here you are just Muslim. And that's the first time where I and many others I know found home.
6 years later, Tugay found a way out.
In October 2017, we actually had a presentation about homosexuality and Islam, and that's when I thought, oh yeah, I can be gay and I can be Muslim at the same time.
Abdul Ballout's path would end very differently. Authorities say Abdul Ballout also moved within Berlin's Salafist scene. He was born in Berlin to parents with Lebanese heritage. He was a German citizen. Ballout's criminal record began at age 14, assaulting a classmate, then taking headphones in a robbery-related extortion. By late 2021, he had reportedly come to domestic intelligence attention over Salafist missionary activity and links to the Islamist group Siratul Haq. Months later, a youth court convicted him and ordered community service and an educational course. At 19, he shared 2 social media posts containing banned IS propaganda. After one failed departure, he traveled to Lebanon, intending to reach Syria and join IS's armed struggle. In 2025, he was arrested and sentenced to 3 months in Lebanon. He reportedly reached out to 2 cousins who were also IS fighters. He was seeking contacts. Germany detained him upon return. Berlin police classified him as a potential Islamist attacker, a Gefährder. A youth court sentenced him to 22 months, but postponed deciding whether to suspend the sentence. Then, his pre-trial arrest warrant was lifted. Police monitored him, and he attended 2 deradicalization assessment meetings. After a weapons alert, police found only a toy gun and closed the investigation. 3 weeks later, investigators named Ballout as the main suspect in the Berlin Pride attack. Police found him the next day. They say he attacked officers with a bladed weapon. Police fatally shot Abdul Ballout. After the attack, investigators found Ballout's phone in the van. On it, an apparent claim of responsibility video. A masked man pledges allegiance to IS. Authorities believe it was Ballout, but that evidence came days later after the attack. There are 2 separate questions here: how the event itself was protected and how authorities managed Ballout before the attack.
The physical protection of the actual event worked. I don't see anything that you could have done differently on the physical protection. But there are serious questions on the responsibility of the court of being part of this system. And there are questions on the police, on the management of the threat.
Since the attack, the court has faced fierce criticism, accused of being too lenient with Ballout. Lisa Yanni is a criminal judge and spokesperson for Berlin's criminal courts. She agreed to speak to us to answer that criticism and explain what the court could and could not legally do.
Under German law, a person between 18 and 21 is considered to be a young adult.
Ballout was roughly 20 years old when he committed the offences in this case. That made applying youth law available, but not automatic. The judges first had to assess his maturity.
For example, in the present case, he hasn't finished school, he wasn't working, he was still living with his mother, who took care of him, and the court thus said he is more considered to be a minor because he's not taking responsibility for his life yet. He's still shapeable.
But some counterterrorism experts read the same evidence differently.
His Telegram account where he's posting nasheeds, his attempt to proselytize with other prisoners while he is in incarceration, all of that shows he's actually quite a well-developed young man.
The court sentenced Ballout to 22 months, then used an unusual German measure called Vorbewährung. So what does it actually mean?
Some people cannot be put on probation yet because there is like a prior step for them to prove that they're able to live amongst us without committing crimes. And he would have had a parole officer nonetheless during that time.
Why did Ballout leave custody after the verdict?
That answer is simple. He was in pre-trial detention, 3 months in Lebanon and 6 months in Germany. And there are very strict laws in Germany to have this pre-trial detention longer than 6 months. And here he has been in this kind of detention for 9 months.
In other words, the court could not keep Ballout behind bars simply because he was seen as a security risk.
The verdict at the end of the trial, that goal was achieved. And since he was a German citizen, the flight risk wasn't considered to be that high after he was sentenced.
The arrest warrant was lifted, but Schindler argues tighter conditions were still possible.
No movement restrictions, no rule that he has to report to the police every 8 hours, anything that they could have done under youth protection law, this would have been possible.
It's not our job to prevent risks or prevent dangers. That's the job of the police.
Once Ballout left custody, managing the threat became a police responsibility. Police knew his detention could end.
You need court orders for all these measures, and the police got those court orders for surveillance, for tapping the phone, for searching his house.
Berlin police declined our interview request. While the investigation remains open, in public, the police chief said this.
Every police force wants to prevent an attack on defenseless people. We did not succeed. We will not gloss over that. It hits me and my colleagues to the core.
Then comes one of the most controversial details in the case. A police camera outside Ballout's home recorded him leaving shortly before the attack.
Yes, they had a camera, but they only analyzed it every 24 hours. Why only analyzing the data once a day? Why not twice a day if it's a high-risk individual?
Less than an hour later, a rented white Citroën van was driven into the crowd. Police believe Ballout had rented it himself.
My question is, could this have been prevented? That's not a rhetorical question. It's a serious one. And if the law did not allow the necessary measures, then we must discuss changing the law. We need electronic ankle monitors mandatory for security threats.
Forensic experts say an ankle monitor might have shown Ballout's route, but it could not reveal his intent or stop him on its own.
If we now respond to terrorism with total surveillance, unlimited preventive detention and racialized surveillance, we will have more terrorism, not less. We will radicalize more people, not fewer.
What do numbers say about this? Germany keeps statistics on convictions. It also tracks Islamist threats. But there is no reliable national data set showing how often people like Ballout reoffend after release. Khan Mustafa Orhon is an Islamic studies scholar who helps radicalized people find a way out.
We want to question this radical attitude and cast doubt on it, ideally so strongly that the person no longer sees it as right or helpful in their life. Then we offer an alternative.
Abdul Ballout never progressed beyond the assessment stage. The court expected him to work with the deradicalization program. Because prosecutors appealed, the ruling was not yet binding. Ballout nevertheless attended 2 assessment meetings with the Violence Prevention Network. The organization declined our interview request, citing the negative attention it received after the attack.
If a court or state authority decides that an offender or radicalized person needs such a measure, that does not mean the person accepts it. That is what happened in this case, a so-called clarification phase, in which the counseling center checks whether the person is willing and able to cooperate.
Orhon saw another warning, the failed attempt to join IS.
We have repeatedly seen a pattern dating back to 2016. People tried to leave the country, failed, and then carried out an attack in Germany.
At that point, counseling and counterterrorism become different jobs.
Civil society does not conduct counterterrorism. The police and domestic intelligence services do.
Monitoring just one person can require dozens of officers, and Ballout was one of hundreds on the authorities' radar.
Of the 410 Islamist security threats, fewer than 160 were living freely in Germany, but that is still enough to push state agencies to their limits.
Round-the-clock observation of one person can require more than 30 officers. So if the state cannot watch everyone, the next chance may come earlier, from family, friends or teachers.
Oh yeah, they all noticed. They all noticed my radicalization. Don't cut them off. You have to talk to kids.
So what should people do?
Call us. Short answer, that is what we are here for. What matters is what someone says. There are believers and unbelievers. The unbelievers are our enemies and we must fight them. That is the point when someone should pick up the phone and call us.
Warning signs can reveal radicalization, but they cannot predict an attack.
I cannot say whether counselling could have prevented the Berlin Pride attack, but the possibility exists, and it would have been worth trying.
We suffer as well as judges because we always have to take decisions that influence so many people. And in hindsight, you can oftentimes say, oh yeah, that was the wrong decision. But we have to make it in the moment itself.
It's so important to talk about Islamism because we have to talk about it to save these people from their own minds, from their own ideologies, just the same way for right-wing extremists.
So is Germany's youth justice system too soft? This case cannot prove that. And the wider evidence does not show that harsher punishment prevents reoffending. But Abdul Ballout's case exposes a harder reality. Rehabilitation cannot replace counterterrorism, and surveillance cannot eliminate risk. Official reviews may still uncover mistakes. What they cannot tell us for certain is whether one different decision would have stopped this attack.